Okay, hello everybody and welcome to our Introduction to Sustainability at the University of Glasgow event. My name's Ty. I'll give you a quick rundown of what we're going to be talking about today. Thank you to everyone for coming along, but also if you didn't get the chance and you're watching on the recording, hello. So my name's Ty. I'm from the Glasgow University Environmental Sustainability team. My pronouns are she, her. So you're going to be hearing from me and some of the other guest coordinators today, but you'll also be hearing from David Gabra, the SRC's environmental officer, Graham Eddles, who's part of the COP26 Coalition, and some representatives from environmental societies that you can get involved in. So that's what we've got coming up. But before that, I'm going to hand over to David to give a little account of the University of Glasgow and their sustainability practices so far.
Hi guys, hope you can hear me. So, the University of Glasgow in November 2020 published a climate strategy document called Glasgow Green, and it's an interesting document. It was developed by a man called Stuart Miller, who's the sort of lead sustainability guy at the university, in tandem with the senior management at the university. And it's quite an ambitious document in a lot of ways. If you know what university management is like, it's gone a lot farther than one might have expected, but it's still not gone far enough. It mainly revolves around the reduction of carbon, which is a pretty narrow paradigm to be addressing your contributions to the climate crisis through. But they are also looking at the ways in which the university is situated within society and the ways in which it interacts with the world at large in a way that is slightly more promising than some universities. And then on the other side, there's a lot of boring, nitty-gritty stuff like turning off lights and doing this and that. But it's quite a bold plan. And after student pressure, they actually committed to reaching net carbon zero by 2030. They'd initially tried to go for 2035, but we managed to bring it back, which is pretty cool. It's also a constantly evolving strategy. They've said that given the dynamic nature of the crisis and the way that it's constantly fluid, the plan's not a fixed thing and it's up for interpretation constantly. And we as students have the opportunity and the power to influence that. And when we get down to climate assemblies, we'll talk about some of the ways in which you can do that. Does it go far enough? It's a good question. I'm going to come back up here in a bit and talk about the Green New Deal, which basically says no. But yeah, so we'll see. On the darker side of things, the university still has a lot of money invested in the fossil fuel industry and has some corporate ties to the industry as well. We hosted an event with Shell, which Joe was there actually. This was pre-pandemic, which was protested by students because it was Shell there saying horrible things. And we still invest in fossil fuels, in spite of the university committing in 2009 to fully divest their fossil fuel holdings within 10 years. This investment stuff is dry as hell, but they haven't done it yet. The climate summit is coming to this city, and it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy that we still have money in fossil fuel companies. And this money, supposedly, their argument goes towards scholarships and hardship funds, but we should be able to have scholarships without burning the planet. There's also a Shell event coming to campus during the week of COP26, and the university has supposedly recommended that it be put online in wake of potential protests from a guy who was involved in some pretty dark things in South America for Shell, as we all know. What am I on to next? So yeah, we still invest in fossil fuels, but that's going to change very soon, and we can all influence that. One of the ways in which we can influence that and the wider sustainability strategy is through climate assemblies. These were established during the pandemic through the Green New Deal Coalition, which is a group of students who are trying to influence the sustainability strategy at the university. And they, with you lovely people, and with Blair Anderson, decided to set up some climate assemblies, which are delineated by the different categories within the Green New Deal proposal. So travel and transport, investment, procurement, sort of buildings and lights and stuff. And each assembly focuses in on one. And the idea was to pit the Green New Deal's suggestions against the university's climate strategy and let people, having heard from an expert on both sides, let people discuss for themselves and develop their own ideas and allow for students and staff to actually be part of the conversation and saying, this isn't something that is happening up in the high offices in the fancy building. This is something that we are all deeply embedded in and engaged in. And not only do we have the right, but we have the power to assert ourselves in this situation and change things. We only had one that happened online, but they're going to be coming back. And if you're interested, keep an eye on your student emails or on the guest page, because I'm sure they'll be promoting it. And they're going to be really, really interesting. And the one that happened online was fantastic. Another exciting thing at the university is the Centre for Sustainable Solutions, which was established last year. And I've got a little description that has come out of their book, because it's much better than anything I could say. It was established as a collection of academics coming together to enable individuals, communities and organisations to act towards a sustainable future through education, research and partnership, supporting interdisciplinary, cross-campus and cross-sectoral solutions to climate change. And it's a really, really interesting body. The academics who are involved with it are incredible people with incredible ideas, and they're open to anything. So if you have an idea about sustainability, you should go to them. If you have a future in research or academia surrounding sustainability, that might end up to be a place for you, and it's a constantly expanding thing, and it's just been established. And we need more academic bodies devoted to tangible solutions to the climate crisis. That's all I've got to say just now. I'm the environmental officer, and I represent you, apparently. I'm your elected representative, so if you've got any issues about sustainability, then come and find me.
Thank you, David, for that. And we'll be hearing from you again a little bit later, because you're involved in so many things, which is great to see. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about GUEST. So we're kind of co-hosting this event, and we are the university's environmental sustainability team. We're a group of 12 interns, which is made up of 3 coordinators, which you'll hear from Melly and Molly later, who are my other 2 coordinators, and 8 promoters who all have kind of a different branch. And while kind of we're only hired once a year, and that's kind of one big way you can get involved with us, each branch also runs different events and has different volunteering opportunities, which we're going to go into. We were started in 2012, so we've been around a little while, and our main remit is to try and kind of promote sustainability amongst students and staff, but also try and slightly influence the university's practice. So I'll go into the branches first of all. So sustainable food, this is a big one that's kind of very current at the moment in Glasgow. They've just launched the Glasgow City Food Plan, which is kind of all about trying to make a kind of comprehensive sustainable food system. This was my role last year as a sustainable food promoter, so it's very close to my heart. But as part of it, if you're looking to get involved, there are lots of events that we run, but also kind of volunteering opportunities to do with redistributing food and trying to kind of combat all the surplus food that is produced by our current food system. But there are always different events to be getting involved in. There's a seedling workshop, which is being co-hosted with the Biodiversity branch later on. Oh no, the arrows. Okay, I can't go back. So I'll go on to biodiversity now, which is a really good one in terms of how you can get involved with GUEST, because there are twice a week gardening sessions. So if you're looking to get involved in something kind of more practical, a way to get involved in nature and feel kind of closer to the environment and make kind of a small impact on that front, you can sign up to be a volunteer in our gardens. And you know, it's a good way to get into nature, a bit of a different rhythm to university life, and they're on campus. So if you fancy that, we're having a seedling workshop where you can plant your own seed, get to see the gardens later on. And the slide I skipped over that I now can't go back to was sustainable laboratories, which is one that's particularly relevant to any science students. And the role of the kind of S-Labs guest promoter is to try and get as many labs recruited as possible to join. I'm going to see if I definitely can't go back. No. It won't let me go back, but luckily I remember it, so it's all good. So the S-Labs promoter tries to get labs to sign up for the kind of LEAF accreditation, which is all about making labs more sustainable. And the main thing with sustainable labs is that while it saves energy and is better for the planet, it also saves a lot of money. So it's kind of good for everybody. But S-Labs this year is producing lots of training materials. So if you're a science student, that's particularly relevant to you. Okay, I'm going to hand over now to Molly to talk about the student engagement branch.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Molly. I'm one of the other guest coordinators, and my branches are student engagement, comms, and social media. So this one, student engagement, is probably, like, we encompass like all the branches because we work with all of them to engage students and get them involved with sustainability on campus with Hannah, our student engagement promoter. And yeah, we want to go a little bit further than raising awareness, because we are not a society, we're not a society, we are interns, and we do have a little bit more power than a society. So we do run like volunteering opportunities and things like that. There's going to be a lot around COP for you to get involved in workshops and in making a change on campus. And we also get involved with various climate festivals, like Glasgow Goes Green Festival, which is during Grow Green Week, which is like February, March time each year. Yeah, and the Student Engagement Branch runs a lot of different events throughout the year. We have like a climate book club, and we're going to be running climate cafes with different sustainable societies. And the first one of that is actually happening today, after the seedling workshop in our Viewfield Lane Gardens that Ty just talked about. Yeah. And the other branch that I look after is communications and social media, and we basically promote guests to students and people around Glasgow. And we have a Wee Green Guide, which is basically your guide to sustainable living around Glasgow. It has a list of eco supermarkets you can get involved in, zero waste shops, a guide to all the transport, a guide to basically everything you need to live sustainably in Glasgow. And you can find that on all our social medias. And if you were at the Freshers Fair yesterday, there should also be a little flyer explaining about that in your goodie bag. Yeah, and we also have a podcast called Green 15. The first episode just came out yesterday, and that is where we offer our sustainable tips and our experience living as sustainable students on campus, and just talk about what's going on in Glasgow. We also have a guest newsletter that you can sign up for. That has all the information on our events and what we're doing, as well as updates around COP26 and the climate in general. And yeah, we also try to promote not just our events, but events that are happening in and around Glasgow. So yeah, if you have any questions, please contact me, and then I'm going to pass on to Melly to talk about her branches.
Hello everyone. So I'm in charge of community engagement and transport, and community engagement is more about facilitating communication between different parts of the university and the wider Glasgow community. And also our promoter writes and researches instances of the university's civic engagement with the wider city of Glasgow. And another project we're doing, if you're interested in gardening, we work with the Biodiversity branch to develop partnerships with schools around Glasgow and do gardening sessions for their students. And then the community engagement branch also works with other branches to facilitate engagement with community organizations. And then my other branch is transport, with the main aim of raising awareness to sustainable travel options on campus and ensuring that information is available to students. And then in terms of events, we run social bike rides every month to different locations around Glasgow, and then some social media campaigns and policy events. And we also run a weekly bike hub, which is where students can get their bikes fixed for free, which is running today if you have a bike. Yeah, and then I'll just talk a bit about COP26 before I hand over to the COP26 Coalition. But for some of you, if you're not aware, it's a global summit about climate change and how countries are planning to tackle it, and it will be attended by different countries and their leaders, which will happen in Glasgow in November. Yeah, and then mostly it's heads of states who are involved, and then civil society organizations. So it's a bit hard for the average person to get involved. So in previous years, there's been a lot of climate justice activists and international organizations that come to participate in actions outside of the official UN summit. And then there's also two different zones. The blue zone is where the negotiations happen, and it's really regulated in terms of access. And then the green zone, which will happen at the Glasgow Science Centre, is where organizations can showcase what they're doing in terms of sustainability and then interact with like the wider public in Glasgow. Yeah, and then in terms of our plans, we're planning to run a youth hub, which will happen at the QMU for the 2 weeks of COP. And it will be a space where we can do workshops and share skills, but also it will have social spaces for when people need a break from all their activism. And yeah, you can either come to those workshops or you can volunteer with guests to help us out if we need more people then. And then we're also running a student journalism at COP project where people who are interested in journalism can report on what happened throughout the day, and it will be published on our blog. and we'll have some trainings for that. So if you're interested, you can sign up using a form on our Linktree, I think. Yeah, and then I'll hand off to Graham, who can speak about the COP26 Coalition.
Hello, my name's Graham, he, him pronouns, and I'm a member of the COP26 Coalition. I'll talk a little bit about COP coming to Glasgow. So we had a very good explanation of it all there. It's probably going to be, certainly will be the most disruptive thing that has ever come to this city. It's going to be one of the largest policing operations, if not the largest that's ever happened in the UK. You've probably seen a lot of stuff in the news about it. Basically, the COP26 Coalition exists to mobilise civil society, all of civil society under one banner. Get people networking, get grassroots communities and organisations, faith groups, student groups, youth groups, migrant groups, racial justice networks, all together as one to sort of act as one voice. The coalition doesn't exist to manage events or actions or organisations. It's a very hands-off approach, and it really exists actually to connect, particularly in Glasgow, communities that already exist and campaigns, fantastic campaigns that already exist up and down this city. So basically, what we want as part of the coalition is to call for climate justice, to call out governments on their woeful inaction. COP26 is not going to deliver climate justice. It's not in the interests of the people at COP26 to do that. It's in the interest to keep the status quo. I mean, very much the conversations around COP26 we expect in terms of negotiations between states will likely be how can the rich Western and global North countries keep polluting while making sure that we can extract as much as we possibly can from the global South and just pay them off for it. We also want to strengthen and connect the international climate movement and enable civil society, particularly people here in Glasgow, to use COP as a leverage point for people in this city to use it for the benefit, because otherwise the circus for COP will turn up and it will leave the city behind with no legacy and in just as much of a mess. So what do? Well, we cover a lot of the logistics, and we kind of take on responsibility for a lot of the protesters and activists that are going to turn up here. They might turn up without accommodation, they might turn up with inappropriate clothing for Scotland in November. So we'll host them as part of our homestay network. We actually ask, if you Google COP26 Coalition Homestay Network, we ask you if you have a spare room to potentially host an activist from elsewhere in the world. We will hold the People's Summit and all the logistics around that, which is a parallel summit held to have people represented, everyday people, particularly people from the Global South, Indigenous peoples, migrant communities who are at the front line of the climate crisis, whose voices should be heard but won't be heard at this COP. And that's another very important point. The reason we're hyping up COP, but we've also called for it to be delayed, and people say that doesn't make much sense. And the reason is, we don't think COP's going to be delayed, although we want it to be delayed, because people from the Global South will not be here due to a vaccine apartheid, due to the fact they're from red list countries, they can't afford accommodation here, it is in a global North country. Those voices will not be heard. So if it does go ahead in November, we ask every Glaswegian, everyone in the UK, to get out on the streets and call out this conference as a sham, because it doesn't represent the voices at the front line of the climate crisis. So we will be doing that through our People's Summit, through our mass mobilisations. We're having a mass mobilisation on the 6th of November. That's where we want to get hundreds of thousands of people out in the streets in Glasgow. And also we are constantly in support of Glasgow campaigns. So we're holding our second Glasgow Assembly, which you can see at the bottom there. There's actually a flyer at the front if you want to take one. It's this Sunday. We are meeting at Langside Halls in the south side, which is threatened by closure from Glasgow City Council. And we're supporting the Glasgow Against Closures campaign. And we're going to march from Langside Halls to Queen's Park Arena at 12:30, where we'll hold our assembly. And that's to gather all Glasgow activists, trade unions, faith groups to get together to talk about what's happening at COP, to mobilise and organise. And there'll be workshops there as well. So it's free to attend and everyone's welcome. Thanks very much.
Okay, next we're going to hear from some sustainable societies, so some kind of instances of how you can get more involved on campus. So first of all, we'll hear from Hannah from the Glasgow Uni Food Co-op.
Hello, I'm Hannah, my pronouns are she, her. I'm part of GUEST as the student engagement promoter, but I'm here to talk today about the Glasgow University Food Co-op, which I'm also part of. So yeah, the main thing that the Glasgow University Food Co-op stands for is just trying to make the food system more fair and sustainable in a small way. So the way that we do that is by trying to provide like affordable, seasonal, local, sustainable veg for students. So every 2 weeks we have veg box distributions that will be happening in the QMU. And students can come and pay a small amount and take away a load of seasonal produce. And yeah, so, oops, sorry. So yeah, you can sign up by finding us on social media at Glasgow Uni Food Co-op, and it's free to become a member, and you can get involved with helping us to run the distributions and run the food co-op. And the more people that we have, the more that we can do. So yeah, we really want to kind of encourage as many people as possible to get involved with us. So yeah, if you're interested in that, speak to me at the end, or you can find us on social media. Thank you.
It's me again with my other hats on, which is not as your elected representative. So I was involved with the Green New Deal Coalition, as I think Joe was, and we met at the end of 2019. We had a big assembly facilitated by the Dialectic Society, and the idea for that was, much like the climate assemblies that we've since gone on to develop with Guest, was to bring together all the students on campus, hear their ideas and hear what they thought about the university's climate strategy. And as a result of that, we ended up producing a document called the Green New Deal, which is fully 75 pages long and encompasses every single aspect of sustainability on campus, and goes further than the university in a lot of ways. I think not only in its aims, but in what it encompasses. So it encompasses procurement, which is the supply chains of how they get stuff here. So all the UofG merchandise in the shop just over there across the road is made by modern day slaves, and is made with textiles that are incredibly pollutive. The carbon content of the food that we get in our in all the food places on campus similarly is not accounted for by the university in their strategy. So we feel like we're going much further than the university in terms of what we are taking responsibility for as an institution, whereas I think they're thinking about things like electricity and things on campus and this and that. And one of the other exciting things about the deal is that it's got a commitment to opposing the profit motive, given the role that capitalism plays in driving the climate crisis, and it explicitly commits to that. And this place, the SRC, has signed on to the Green New Deal, which is quite exciting. So we've got their support, which means that it's supposedly supported by the elected representatives of the students of the University of Glasgow, which doesn't mean much to senior management, but it means a little bit to us. Our deal still exists. If you want to get involved with pushing it, we're on Facebook at the Green New Deal. Send us a message or find our email address. And hopefully we can continue to drive the university sustainability strategy in a positive anti-capitalist direction. Taking one hat off and putting another one on, the university invests in the arms trade and has significant research ties to this industry. And as your elected representative of the SRC, you're more than welcome to disagree with me and think that the arms trade is a legitimate practice and that we should be allowed to engage with it. But personally, I think it's a load of bollocks. And I don't think that in a world where we are slowly running out of resources, that we should be able to spend energy and time and brain power and human life on doing things that only cause violence. And moreover, I don't think the universities should have to be tied to this as a central aspect of their business model, which they currently are. We're getting loads and loads of money from arms companies. And one of their arguments is, well, people would be out of jobs if we didn't have this money. And that's fine, but can we not question that logic in the first place and ask why universities have to be this way and why the world has to be this way? So the campaign has had an interesting time so far. We had a big protest in 2019, got loads of support. Things rumbled on through into COVID, and eventually the university held our discussion about our demands to divest at the highest body, which is the University Court, which sits every 2 months, I think, at which they said that the arms trade was morally good because some of the equipment produced by arms manufacturers was used by the UN humanitarian forces to hand out humanitarian aid. So apparently it's fine having an arms trade. They told us to fuck off. They wrote to every arms company in whom they invest, and they wrote to the British government asking if their sales of weaponry was in line with their own ethically stated practices, and they all wrote back saying, why, we have the finest ethical standards in the whole world, don't you know? So that was that. We've done the bureaucratic route, we're now going down the action route. So if you want to get involved with stopping that, That's our Instagram. We're going to be having an open meeting very soon, and tell everyone you know that uni invests in the arms trade, because it's shameful. It's shameful.
Okay, now we're going to hear from Joe from the Extinction Rebellion group.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming today. Yeah, my name's Joe, I'm from Extinction Rebellion, Glasgow University. So what I thought I'd do today is just tell you a bit about Extinction Rebellion for a few minutes, just in case some of you might not have heard of it. And then I'll go on to talk a bit about Extinction Rebellion at Glasgow University and what we do and how you can get involved. So Extinction Rebellion as an international movement uses non-violent direct action to try and prevent mass extinction and minimise the risk of social collapse from the climate and ecological emergency. As I'm sure most of you in the room are aware, the climate and ecological emergency is the biggest threat facing humanity and facing global justice in the world. And we've known this for kind of just over 50 years, and yet the governments of the world have failed to do anything about it. In the year 2021, globally, we're still emitting more greenhouse gases than we ever have before. The governments are completely failing to protect us from harm. And in Extinction Rebellion, we think that kind of the social contract, how it works, is that when governments fail to protect the citizens, it's not only their right, but their actual moral duty to rebel against the government, to take action against the government. And so that's why you might have seen us in London, occupying some parts of London, doing other things like blocking oil rigs, and so on. And this is kind of rooted in the history of social movements. You know, the suffragettes in the early 20th century used non-violent direct action. Martin Luther King in the civil rights struggle, and Gandhi in the Indian independence movement, they all prevailed against kind of overwhelming odds using non-violent direct action. And so we think we can use that too in order to kind of find solutions for the climate and ecological crises we've got on our hands. Yeah, and just very quickly, we have three demands. The first one is that the government and institutions tell the truth about the climate and ecological emergency. The second one is that the government commits to net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2025. And the third one is that we use citizens' assemblies to oversee the process of kind of decarbonisation and to stop ecological harm, which I won't get into now, but you can come talk to me about at the end and look it up online. It's basically, we think, a more fair and effective way of doing democracy that avoids the problems of kind of corporate lobbying. So yeah, that's my spiel on Extinction Rebellion as a movement, but kind of what is Extinction Rebellion Glasgow University? How does it relate to Extinction Rebellion, and kind of what kind of things can we do? Well, we focus more on kind of trying to get the university to kind of include climate justice in their policies and practices. So as you've heard, the university is unfortunately an incredibly unjust institution at its core. Which, yeah, I'm sorry to break it to you, because I know you've just got here and you're probably excited about joining Glasgow University, but unfortunately that is the case. As you've heard, there's still millions invested in fossil fuels and the arms trade. When the university is supposed to be thinking about our future, and they're investing in kind of two of the most destructive industries for not only ours, but kind of everyone's future on the planet. Yeah, as you also heard, careers fairs, really companies with terrible human rights records and terrible environmental records getting invited to careers fairs, talks hosted by BP and Shell, and so on. So that's why we need to target the university. And also, I think more positively, if we're going to find solutions to the climate and ecological emergency, research and teaching is at the core of that, right? Like, we are at this institution with amazingly, intelligent people, and we can, if we're going to find the solutions, this is where it can happen. So that's another reason we target the university. So what kind of things do we do to target the university? We do kind of direct actions, things like we've camped out, we've occupied the cloisters for a night, we've had multiple attempted occupations of the university. One of them was cancelled because of COVID, and another one, the security team kind of got wind of it and shut it down before it could happen, unfortunately. We've disrupted senior management meetings, so that was kind of, we found out where the sustainability committee was having their meeting, and we interrupted that. We did it in a friendly way. We brought tea and cake to them, but also said kind of like, guys, come on, let's get this, let's sort your shit out, basically. And we actually heard from a source that interrupting that meeting actually led to the university senior management thinking more about the new climate change strategy. We've protested at careers fairs. We've helped to disrupt the climate change talk that was sponsored by, I can't remember if it was Shell or BP that David mentioned, but one of the two. We do banner drops, and we also are closely linked with Extinction Rebellion Scotland and Extinction Rebellion Glasgow. So whenever they need help with actions, we kind of will come in and help with that. You can see there, that's about 2 years ago, we occupied the Scottish Parliament with them. Bottom right, you can see one of our protests as well. We did that with the Arms Divestment Coalition, which we're also part of. But it's not all direct action. We also do lots of other things. So we helped to co-write the Green New Deal, which David mentioned, which came away with 52 kind of implementable recommendations for climate justice for the university, and took just over a year. And now we're trying to campaign to get those implemented. We do fly posting, putting up our posters all around the university. We do fundraising nights. We did a club night that raised with a club night with GRASS, which is a refugee kind of support society at the university, which raised just over £1,000. We do film screenings. We've done some film screenings with the Documentary Society. We put on talks. We do workshops. We do trainings, and we also have socials to have a bit of fun as well. And what successes have we had? Well, since we were formed, and I'm definitely not taking credit for this completely because there's so many different amazing environmental organisations at the uni which have kind of put pressure on the university. Since we started, the university's launched a new climate change strategy. I think they changed their original net zero target from, I think, when I was in first year, it was 2045, I think, and now it's gone down to 2030, so that's a pretty amazing thing. The SRC endorsed the Green New Deal, and I think I've seen less dodgy companies invited to the careers fairs after, in recent history, because I think the senior management are worried that, us lot are going to make a fuss about it. So that's kind of just to say, action does work. We can influence policy at the university. So finally, how can you get involved? What we've got coming up? So today we're going to be at a guest climate cafe. I think that's just a drop in, just to kind of have a chat with everyone. So a couple of people from Excel will be there just to hang around and talk to everyone. We've got a social coming up on Sunday at 8 p.m. At Dram, which is just a bar just down the road. So please come along to that. Our first kind of in-person organising meeting is on Tuesday at 5 p.m. That will probably be somewhere in the main building. We haven't got the room confirmed for that yet. We're doing a talk called Heading for Extinction and What to Do About It on Thursday the 23rd. That basically covers in a bit more detail the kind of climate and ecological emergency and what Extinction Rebellion's tactics are and kind of everything like that. There's the youth strike on Friday the 24th of September. that's not really, we're just going to go along to support that, but please do come along to that, support the school strikers. Yeah, and then we'll also be putting on Know Your Rights training. We're going to invite someone from the COP Coalition to come and do a talk. We've got non-violent direct action training, and then obviously COP in November, which you already heard about. It's an incredibly huge opportunity for kind of, if you're ever going to get involved in kind of climate activism, this is the year to do it. Like, COP is coming to our city, so I really encourage you to. Finally, this is just our social media, so please follow us on that. We're about to release like a mailing list that you can sign up to, so you can also get newsletters and stuff from us. Yeah, and also finally, like, even if you're not interested in getting involved with Extinction Rebellion, please do get involved with like one of these environmental sustainability, climate justice focused organizations at the university, because, you know, we really have an amazing opportunity to create change here. So yeah, please do get involved, and thank you for listening to me. Cheers.
Hello, I'm back again. Just to finish up on, I already covered a lot of this stuff, but basically how you can get involved in Guest. Basically just come along to our events, follow us, keep up with us. We really want to, you know, get more involved with the student body, because as we say, we're not a society, we don't have members, so we want people to get involved with us in other ways. So yeah, come along to our events today. We've got, as I said, our climate cafe and our seedling workshops at 2 and 3 p.m. in our Viewfield Lane Gardens. If you need help getting to the gardens, like, let me know and we can tell you where they are. Yeah, follow our social media. We have a link tree in our bio with all the different things we're involved in, volunteering sign-ups, events, our newsletter, and yeah, that QR code will take you there, but we also have leaflets and stuff at the front. So yeah, thank you all so much for coming along today, and if you watched along online, then like, we're really grateful, and yeah, we hope you can get involved with either us or with one of these amazing societies or opportunities, and yeah, thank you so much.